Welcome back to the Buff Divers podcast, where my brother and I take a look at the state of Helldivers 2, analyze the subject, and brainstorm ways to improve aspects of the game. My name is Quinn, and this is my brother Shay.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
In this episode, we're diving into the Vehicle Bay, a customizable system for exosuits and the FRV. The goal is to create meaningful tactical options for squads and elevate the identity of each loadout. Shay came up with this idea, so I will let him lead with this.
Yeah, thanks. So I've heard for a while that, whatever people have data miners have seen that there's some sort of vehicle bay in the works in Helldivers. I've heard people mention it. To me, I don't know what it is, but to me, this is basically some iteration of what I'm about to talk about here is what it should be. Again, if Helldivers had something like this in it where you can customize vehicles, it would just, it would make this fantastic game like one of the most ridiculous games ever. So I tried to keep this pretty low to the ground, but some of it might be a little highfalutin here. So, but my thing is, if you could really give these things the personal touch, it would be so cool to be, calling in some, your custom FRV that's just really tuned up to the way that your play style, and would just really take the game to another level. So, basically, so we'll start with the exosuits. And so basically, I broke this up into a couple of different things. So I think if you were to have a customizable mech, you should have basically the chassis and the arm attachments and body attachments. So chassis is obviously the kind of it's armor level, is it light, medium, or heavy? So I have 3 chassis, basically, light, medium, and heavy. I named them the Phantom frame, which is the light, Vanguard frame, which is medium, Bulwark frame, which is heavy. Vanguard frame, medium, is basically what we have right now. So we would basically take something that was, a little bit lower armor than this one, but it would have a higher speed and a faster cooldown, and then a heavier frame, which would be, a longer cooldown, higher armor, but also, slower on the ground as well. And I gave each one of them just kind of a little, well, I gave the light one also a little bit of a ability. So this would have the kind of detection reduction that like the scout armor has. So visual detection reduction would go down by 30% with this as well. The Vanguard frame, basically is just your balanced exosuit, and then nothing really for the Bulwark frame other than having basically its armor class up another level from the Vanguard frame. So, small arms fire, it would be almost impervious to. I don't know, Quinn, what do you kind of think about that for kind of a starting point?
I think that's a great place to start, especially with, having a mech with heavy armor would be awesome. It is a giant robotic suit. Like, most of our enemies are able to have heavy armor, so it'd be nice to kind of level the playing field with that ability. And I think there's plenty of trade-offs so that it gives each level of armor a niche and a play style. You get the light, quick mech that you can run around with pretty quickly. The standard one, which is basically what we have now, which is a lot of fun and I love. I just want more weapon options for it to make it a little bit better, because I think it is pretty balanced. I would like more uses, or a way to increase the uses, or a way to reload or repair it mid-battle if we're only going to have the same amount of uses. But like having a heavy armor mech would be a lot of fun, just kind of being that big tank up on the front line. Even if it had something like a shield would be cool, because I always like playing that frontliner protecting the squad. You can have some epic hero moments with the big shield, the get down Mr. President moments. that
Yes.
that every good soldier longs to have an honorable death. You know,
Exactly.
but I think that's a great
And
place to start.
yeah, and my thought around balancing all this stuff is that basically everything has some effect on the cooldown. So I made like a spreadsheet and kind of balanced all this stuff in terms of what it would affect on its cooldown, how it would affect the durability of the mech, and how it would affect the speed of the mech. So, the frames obviously kind of set the tone for what the kind of starting values would be, but then all the other attachments that we're going to talk about would have an effect on it. I'm not going to really go into those unless we might deep dive into a couple of these, but kind of know that I've thought about the balancing about all this stuff, and again, we may put these in the show notes in case someone's interested in kind of what I was thinking around this stuff. So, getting into the exo arm attachments. So Quinn, you're just mentioning a shield. That's the first one I have on here. Is basically a ballistic shield attachment.
Great minds think alike.
Yes, yeah. So obviously this is increasing the durability on it, and it would have basically no effect on the cooldown. I think anything purely defensive on your mech really shouldn't do anything to increase cooldown. Um, I think this has a melee, like a shield bash, with instead of like using your stomp now, if you had the ballistic shield on, you would then, just lash out with the shield, do a heavy stagger on any enemy that, lives through that. I think that'd be really cool because although I like the stomp is kind of fun, it kind of has a weird tracking to it, and it's also obviously like extremely like linear. Having something with an arc and some forward momentum to it would be, I think, really nice and just give that melee a bit more functionality.
I agree with that. I think a lot of the melee abilities in Helldivers 2 could use a little bit more horizontal attack. That way it can have a little bit more of a crowd control rather than it being a single target. So I really like where your head's at on that. I think that's a great place to start.
Want to take the next one?
Yeah. So this one really tickles the Gundam fan in me. So a laser katana. This would have a low effect on the call-in time, a large increase on the speed of your mech since it would be removing a large weapon and replacing it with a laser katana, which has pretty much no weight, and then no effect on the durability. I think this would be fun to kind of pair with something with heavier armor if we had that option with that bulwark frame like you had suggested earlier. That way you can kind of be a little bit more of a frontliner. But this would be a high damage, high pen, close range weapon, and the style points alone would just make it a lot of fun. And I think everybody that is a melee weapon fan in Helldivers wants some sort of like laser or energy based melee weapon, because I definitely want like a big laser sword, or even similar to the little automaton units that have like the little orange or red glowing swords attached to their arms. Something like that would be cool too. If I always like, the Destiny fan in me likes kind of like the repurposing your enemy's weapons or repurposing the enemy into a weapon. So that way it kind of ties in with the lore.
Yeah, exactly. And that was kind of my thought was, something akin to that design, with the red blade, or something like that. I think it would, on a visual level, it'd be really striking.
Yeah.
And, would be really cool. Just, yeah.
Yeah, definitely
really cool
strike
just to get
fear
up
into the hearts of democracy's enemies.
That's right. Yeah. No. So I think it'd be pretty sweet. So the next thing I had was railgun, and I think you kind of have a beefed up version of the railgun that we use on the the handheld one. Obviously, this one would basically not need an unsafe mode, since it would be mounted on an actual machine. So this would be kind of the railgun on steroids, basically. I think this would be kind of like a high call-in effect. effect on the cooldown time. I think it would affect it in a major way because I think this you could make this thing, you could tune it up pretty high. You could give it a decent amount of ammo for sure, but this thing should be, I think, and maybe two-shotting Bile Titans in the head, something like that. Because I mean, the regular railgun I think is a 3 or 4 tap taking down Bile Titans. So I think if you were two tapping Bile Titans with this thing and you had 20, 30 shots with it, to me that is a pretty devastating weapon.
Yeah, and with the additions that are coming up in the newest update, I can't recall what it is, but with Flying Bile Titans,
Yeah.
the potential Hive Lords, just the increase of heavy armor enemies, I think we need to start leveling the playing field, because sometimes I'm like, man, I don't know how we're supposed to keep up with all these things with our current offerings. So something like this would make me very happy.
Yeah, without just always grabbing the recoilless rifle.
Which I do.
Which
is exactly what I do. I am a big recoilless rifle fan.
Yes.
And I'm also becoming a fan of the next attachment, which is the Quasar Cannon. I've been using that a lot with the Warp Pack. I think that's the new, that's going to be a meta loadout here coming up soon. But
yeah,
a Quasar Cannon on a mech would be awesome. I think just laser weapons in general on the mechs would be great, since they do have limited ammo, destructible limbs, and running out of ammo mid-fight kind of sucks. But having a Quasar Cannon on a mech would be awesome. So this would have a high effect on the call-in time, because this would be a very powerful option. It would reduce the weight, or reduce the speed of the mech, because it would have an effect on the weight of the mech, but it would have a neutral effect on the durability, since we're not really sacrificing anything or adding anything defensive that way. So yeah, we all know the Quasar Cannon is a high energy plasma bolt launcher, slow charge, but high damage and high armor pen. So this would be pretty much a mainstay on my mech if they added this.
Yeah, I mean, just having something with infinite ammo on it would just make it so that you could have high uptime on it. And again, I don't think it's broken at all to have a Quasar Cannon on there, because especially as mechs are now, they're pretty frail. I mean, they're not paper. I was in anticipation of this. I was doing a lot of drops with FRV and the mech, rocking a shield backpack at the same time on level 10. And, I was chopping it up. I was definitely having a lot of games where I was, high kill guy with, while using my mech, and having some great shootouts. It was fun. Like, I hadn't used it in a little bit, and while I was using it, I was very pleased with how the Emancipator was performing on the bots. But, one couple wrong moves and you lose an arm. You lose arms fairly easily. So
Yeah.
it's it's very easy for just you to lose that Quasar Cannon arm, and then cool. Well, you got to do another call in. So no, I and especially with the charge time and all that stuff, it's not like you could just be, using this thing to solo the map. You would have to be playing extremely carefully. And again, I think that should always be rewarded. High skill ceiling stuff.
Yeah. Yep, I agree. And one thing, when we are putting these lists together and putting these ideas together, we are trying to keep balance in mind, because we're not just being like, all right, yeah, here's your Hellbomb launcher.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, the challenge is what makes the game fun. The fact that you are so easy to kill is what makes the moments when you overcome adversity that much more intense, and that much more rewarding, because you shouldn't have survived, you shouldn't have been able to overcome that, but you did, and that was awesome. So yeah, then the next item up here would be the spear launcher, or any kind of homing, either cluster missile or just big spear type missile. To me, as someone who used to play mech games back in the day, this was always something that you had on the mech. The thing where you could paint a bunch of targets and just shoulder mounted missiles just flying off and clear out whatever. I think the power fantasy is awesome. Obviously the spirit launcher already exists, so I was kind of using that as the analog. But I think you could go with anything where you're able to kind of paint targets, and then release some sort of missile attack.
Yeah, that's definitely kind of where I go. It makes me think of like a Mech Warrior or
Yeah.
other Gundam type games where you can just kind of launch the volley of missiles. But to keep it grounded in Helldivers, yeah, having like a spear type missile launcher on there would be really nice. Although I wouldn't say no to a like cluster of homing missiles that you can paint a patrol with and take them all out. That would feel so cool. That would definitely be.
Yeah.
That would definitely hit that power fantasy.
Absolutely.
Kind of. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Continue your thoughts.
Oh, I was just gonna move on to the next one because just taking on an entire patrol in a single shot would be just the airburst missile launcher. Mounting one of those onto the mech too would be great. That would be pretty powerful because you'd be able to take out pretty large groups. So I think that would probably have a high effect on the call-in time, but yeah, not really affect the speed or the durability. But that would be, imagine having both of those on a mech. Using the spear to take out the heavy hitters and then the airburst to clear out the mobs. And potentially your entire team, but
yeah. I mean, you would just feel like this ridiculous weapons, mobile weapons platform. Just locking on, firing things off. It would be so cool. So yeah, going back to kind of more like traditional weapons, flamethrower. I think this one would be insane to have on the mech. And there's precedent for this because in the original Helldivers, I think it was called the Lumberjack, it had a flamethrower, and I think it had a melee weapon on it, like a chainsaw arm, which would also be sick.
So say no to that.
No, absolutely not. So I mean, I would love to see a flamethrower put on one of these mechs.
Yeah, I think that would really make them a lot more effective on the bug front. And even with the Illuminate, the flamethrowers are really good against the Illuminate as well. And it would just be great for mob clear, because I think that's the one thing that the mechs aren't really great at. Like the Patriot exosuit does have the minigun, which is it is a great ad clear weapon, but the way that it chews through ammo just doesn't really help as much on that front.
Correct. Yeah, I've really liked the minigun, but its ammo reserves are so low. You can especially on really on any of the fronts. I think that it could do a double the ammo that it has now, and still be effective. Yeah, I feel like that original mech is even like its missile launcher too. Again, if we're talking about balancing, yeah, I guess it's fine. But without a way to rearm these things, I feel like that one really suffers from just low ammo. I feel like every time I use that one, like when I use the Emancipator, I feel like I'm getting a good bang for my buck, when I'm using that. But with that one,
yeah,
I feel like I burn through the ammo pretty quick, and I'm pretty conservative, especially like with the missiles and stuff like that. But the minigun runs out so quick, then you're just like, well, okay, well, I guess I'll just burn up the rest of these, shoulder-mounted rockets, and then I'm done, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd much rather have a Quasar and a flamethrower than minigun and the whatever dinky rocket launcher that the Patriot has.
Yeah, exactly.
More than a flamethrower, I want a laser cannon, though, because I'm coming back to infinite ammo on these things and the ammo limitations. Laser cannon, I would like it to be like the dual laser cannon, kind of the way the Emancipator has dual auto cannon per arm. Just firing 2 lasers. Oh man, that'd be just so sweet.
It looks so awesome. It would just look amazing. And just shoving 2 lasers into some hive guard's face would just be like so fucking awesome.
Yeah, and I definitely want that just for my laser maxing build. You know, a laser cannon, quasar cannon mech, orbital laser, laser cannon weapon stratagem, laser guard dog, or laser turret. You know,
Yeah,
more lasers. We just want more lasers.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And one thing that I want more of is anti-tank cannons. So basically, take what you got on the anti-tank emplacement and put it on a mech.
Mm.
That cannon feels amazing. It's got real good stopping power, real good AOE. I'd love to see that put on a mech as well.
Yes. Yeah, because that is the one downside of the anti-tank emplacement. It is an emplacement, so wherever you
Yeah.
put it is where it's stuck. You can't really move with it, and you know that may be why it's not on a mech because of balance. But I also want it on there. I don't see any reason thematically or technologically inside the Helldivers universe why that wouldn't be possible.
Yeah. Again, if you're worried about balance, it doesn't have to have crazy amounts of ammo. I think on the emplacement, just 30 shots that you get. So I mean, even if you were getting 15 shots or something like that, you can wreak a lot of havoc with
Oh yeah.
15 anti-tank shots, especially if you had the dual laser cannon or something with like high ammo, on your other one that you're kind of mobbing with, and then that anti-tank cannon for when the problem arrives.
Yes, exactly. It's like, all right, literally time to pull out the big gun.
Yeah. Yes.
And then speaking of maxing builds, for the arc maxing builds, put an arc thrower or two arc throwers on a mech,
Yeah.
because that would be really cool. That would be a great add clear weapon. It would have that stunning effect to really do the crowd control. Um, and I think the arc weapons are a little underrated. Like it'd either be an arc thrower or even a blitzer would be cool too, because that way you get more of a spread.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could even do some combination. Like I have arc thrower on here, but again, the arc thrower is meant for a person to use, so it's like a real pared down version. I feel like anytime you put something on the mech, you can soup it up, so maybe you kind of have a combination blitzer arc thrower, that it's able to shoot off a bunch of bolts, within a radius,
Ooh.
and with a little bit more stop and power.
Yeah, you said souped up arc thrower, so now I'm thinking of it, instead of it shooting kind of like the little lightning bolt it has now, like a much bigger lightning bolt and like a blitzer effect coming off of the barrel. So everything that's close gets the
Yeah.
blitzer, and everything in the distance. I can hear the sound design for that right now. Just boom, like
Yeah.
an actual
Yeah.
thunderbolt
More.
coming off of that thing. Man, that would be really cool. I think that
Yeah. Yeah. More Tesla power than arc thrower.
yes, and I love the arc weapons. They just the flavor of the arc weapons, it just really makes me happy. Like I'm always like, when it comes to RPGs, I love using lightning weapons or lightning spells.
Yeah.
It's just because it's cool. It's so cool, and
Yeah.
yeah, I
Nothing
think
beats
given
wielding lightning.
yeah, I mean, you literally feel like Thor or Zeus or Storm from the X-Men. It's like it's just
Yeah.
all those mythological characters and comic book characters are just badass.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
And
So
before we move on,
obviously-
before we move on to the body attachments, I just kind of want to bring up something where it's like the idea of customization for both arms and the combination potential for trying out as many different of these little combinations, a flamethrower and a laser cannon, an anti-tank cannon and an arc thrower, or a rail gun and a katana, like, or a shield and a katana. Like those are all just so different, much different play styles, and then adding in the different ability to change your frame and be the faster moving one, so you're like doing a hit and run, running in with the shield and the katana and just hacking some dudes to bits and getting out of there quick, like, or having the shield and the big tank frame and just using the quasar cannon, so you're just kind of soaking up hits with the shield while your quasar's recharging or cooling off, and yeah, there's just so many cool possibilities that I hope that somebody at Arrowhead hears any of these ideas and is inspired, or we're right on the money and these things are coming anyway.
Yeah. I think, the big thing when I was playing the mech was how cool it is. I mean, the Power Fantasy is really cool. I think they did a lot of good work on the base mechs on just making them feel sweet, look cool. They're just really fun, and I feel like you don't see them enough. And there's definitely another episode where I want to get into how you make the base offerings of mechs and FRVs better. We won't get into that today. Today's focused around this vehicle bay, but yeah, I think there's a lot that they should be doing to support that play style. Like again, they say that it's not a stealth game, and do things to support stealth. But I'll say this: the game definitely supports mechs and FRVs and vehicles. Like I think they should be leaning in heavily into that Power Fantasy a lot more.
Yeah, and I think we'll find more of a use for them as they expand our rogues gallery, if you will. Once we have more enemies to face, I think there's a lot of speculation that the new update is going to be bringing the Hive Lord, which I'm really hoping is like a boss tier enemy. And as we introduce more boss tier enemies for the other two factions and potentially more per faction, I think we're going to really need ways to deal with them and ways to level the playing field so that we're equipped to take these guys on.
Yeah. So that was kind of the arm attachments that I had talked about. Now, obviously, there's the ones that are already in the game: the minigun, the missile launcher, then the dual autocannons. You can kind of just look at any stratagem and be like, cool, throw that on the mech's other arm as well. There's so much stuff you can do. I'd really be interested in what people would really like to see on there, if they have any ideas for unique things. Yeah, really interested to see what other people would have to say. But I think this is a good starting point that you could mix and match and create some cool combos with.
Yeah.
So the next way to customize them would be body attachments. So this would be basically everything would get some sort of ability that you would attach to the body of this thing to kind of, again, bump up the versatility of it to the next level. So like the first thing I have here is a jump pack. Like the Hulks got jump packs. Okay,
they fly now.
They fly now. So there's no reason why the mech couldn't fly now. And again, we can. I would think this is a jump pack, or maybe it's the hover pack. Or both. Both are fine. But I think that would be pretty sweet to just giving that increased mobility to the thing, where it's just flying in, getting into the fray. Again, Quinn, you're talking about a shield and the sword, and then you're getting the jump pack, so you're just like getting in there, just bowling things over. To me, that sounds like a great time.
Yep, I totally agree. This kind of gives me an idea. An offshoot of this would be like a dash pack, where you could dash horizontally to avoid fire, or dash forward into a fight. And
I do have that later in here. Let's just go ahead and talk about it. So I called that the leg boosters. That would have been some sort of dash, kind of like, think of like activating like the warp pack, where you kind of click it, and whatever direction you're facing, it kind of gives you that. It activates the device in that direction. That's kind of how I would see the leg boosters being.
Yeah, totally. Because that kind of always, that's when I think of mech piloting. That kind of using the boosters to kind of move yourself around the battlefield, and zigzagging in to avoid fire and pushing into the fight. I think there's a new game, Mecha Break. It kind of died off pretty quickly, but they had some really good mobility controls in the game that had some of those boosters where you're kind of moving in and out to avoid fire. And anytime I think of piloting a mech, that's right where my head goes.
Yeah. And another nice thing about the jump pack would just be allowing to get the mech into, advantageous positions, just like, you would be like with a sniper or something like that, but getting that mech into like a high vantage point and just, raining down destruction, also really cool.
Yeah.
One thing to go back to the arm attachments, I just was thinking of this. It'd be cool to have, the arm on the mech that needs to kind of be deployed, like some sort of like stationary thing where it kind of has to like set it down, big cannon or big, rail cannon or something like that has, charges up, but is just dealing like massive destruction, big old beam or, again, massive cannon. But, with the trade-off that you have to be stationary to fire it and there's like a little bit of setup, that could be really cool.
Yeah, very cool. And now the most popular one that every single person wants in this game, stratagem launcher for the mech.
Yes.
When I think about using the stratagem launcher, I think
And
bringing
now, another helpful tip from
the
General
shield
Ryan.
generator and turrets. That way you're just kind of this like mobile, destructive force.
Yeah. Yeah, and that would really offset some of the the fragility of the mech to always have that the shield up. That'd be really cool. I like that a lot. Yeah, then you're kind of playing that engineer, where you're just bringing all this tech and setting up all these turrets and adding the mech, and yeah, I think that would really optimize that kind of power fantasy.
Yes, and I think we've talked about this before, but an armor type that would make you a better pilot or allow you to do better things with the mech moving forward, like
Sure.
that kind of armor passive would be great to kind of
Yeah,
play
well-
into this, but we'll get there later, I'm sure.
Yeah, we'll get that into our another episode on that for sure. Cool. So stratagem launcher. It was in the original Helldivers as well. No need for it to not be in there. And so this was kind of my thought around the attachments category here. Is there were attachments in the original Helldivers, there should be in this one. And so why not have an assortment of attachments rather than just the stratagem launcher? Like the next thing, self-destruct. I think that it basically has a hell bomb inside of it, and when it either dies or you can manually set it off, it just has a hell bomb explosion. I think that this would be awesome.
Yes.
Again, the martyrdom aspect of Helldivers is one of the funnest things, where it's just, the mech has both arms blown off, shit's getting crazy, and it's just like, I got this, fellas,
Yeah.
and you just stomp into, the mist and just detonate, I think that'd be so cool.
Get these samples back to Super Earth and tell my wife
Yeah.
I love her. I'm not
Yeah.
going to be making it back this time.
Yeah, exactly. So pretty self-explanatory, but again, super fun. I think the Hellbomb backpack. People love that. I love it. Again, this is just a way to really maximize on that. Because why not take the Hellbomb backpack and then you have your exploding mech? Now you're really maximizing the Hellbombs on screen, and that's a good time in my book.
Yes, I think everybody wants more ways to get hell bombs onto the battlefield because big booms boom big, in the words of Arrowhead.
That's right. Yep.
Next one is a personal shield for the mech, which I think would be great. Just basically a big bubble shield like we have stratagem for our Helldiver, to add some more durability to the mechs. The technology is there. I don't see why we couldn't do it, and if it's able to be miniaturized for a soldier to wear on its back, it can definitely be made to fit onto a weapons platform like the mech.
Absolutely. Yeah. Again, it kind of speaks for itself. And again, like the Super Earth is all about kind of taking enemy technology and repurposing for it. So, the harvesters, obviously, they're using a personal shield. That can be the cannon thing. It was after studying harvesters, blah blah blah. We've figured out a way to get it on the mech. So, again, making it so that they're just more survivable. This would go a long way, and it would look really cool.
I like that. I like those lore
Uh,
implications too.
yeah, yeah. So then the next thing on here is I called it the guard dog perch. So this would make it so if you had a guard dog backpack on when you got into the mech, that it would then be active while you're using the mech, which I think would be awesome.
That
If
would be great.
you had the electric, either one of the guard dogs that had, and I thought, no matter what guard dog you're using, it basically would have infinite ammo. Like if you had like the Liberator backpack, whatever. The mech has a store of ammo to continually, keep it fed or whatever. But I think it would be so cool to have you're meching around doing your thing, and then you just have the guard dog kind of perched up above it as like a turret doing its thing. Would be really sweet.
Ooh, I like that idea, especially, bringing on the bug front, have a flamethrower on your mech, and you have your gas dog out there spraying gas.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
massive crowd control possibilities there.
Yeah, would be really cool, really sweet. And it. I think like the new Arc Guard Dog would do really well as something like that too. I mean, they would all. It would all be super great. So yeah, I
Yeah.
would be really excited to get something like that.
Again, just another opportunity for experimentation and customization and seeing, what fits your style, or what
Yeah.
fits the mission.
Yep. Yep. Exactly.
I really like this next idea, the Helldiver chair, basically a way for your one of your teammates to come sit on top of the mech
Yep.
and allow them to ride and fire independently from the top of the exosuit. It's almost better than having a
Yeah.
guard dog. Got
That's
a
right.
guard diver.
Yeah. I mean, anytime you're in the mech, someone is always trying to jump on top of it, and you can ride it in that glitchy, silly ass way. Which you and me have had missions where you just have been riding on the top of it for hour for as long as
For
possible,
as long
and it's
as it
been
let me, yeah.
yeah, and it's just been a blast. So having something so you could actually be on there, I would jump on a mech in a heartbeat if I saw a chair on there and be like, let's roll.
Yep, I mean both bringing the spear and launching spear shots from the top of the mech
Oh, yeah.
was really sweet. It kind of had
Yep.
that fantasy like we talked about earlier, and then also having a laser cannon on top was also very cool because you got the unlimited ammo and you're able to kind of mop up and save the mech some ammo that way.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So that to me, we talk about like a lot of like crazy cool technology. The chair would be one of the most exciting things for me to see.
I agree. Beautiful simplicity.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Just, again, this game, the more it leans into the teamwork aspect, that's honestly one of the most fun things. When you and your friends are just being silly and blowing shit up, that's when the game's at its best.
Yes, and if we're talking about ways to, implement this in the game, if it's hard to put a chair in where you actually have to do something to interact with it and get in there, just put some guardrails on top of the mech so you can't fall off, and you just have somebody jump
Yeah.
on the OSHA guardrails, keep you on there, and you're able to fight from the top that way.
Yeah, yeah. They of all the things that I've seen them do, putting a chair on a mech, I think is doable. If I can ride in a chair in an FRV, what's the difference? All right. So the next thing is the radar uplink. So this would kind of be more like a scout thing, where this would negate stratagem jammers and cognitive jammers. So within a certain radius of the mech, it would negate that stuff. And then it would also make it so that on the radar, it would kind of be constantly putting out like a large enemy movement ping so that you could just better see stuff in the area. So I think a cool utility, again, for that person that wants to be supporting the team more. I think this would be a really cool thing.
Yeah, I do like that a lot. That kind of makes me think of something like a broadcast speaker that's like sending out inspirational general brash quotes that
Ooh,
increases everybody's you know
so
stamina or something like that.
it's funny in Command and Conquer Generals. If you're the Chinese faction, they have propaganda towers as like one of their buildings, but they're also attachments for like their big tanks. And the propaganda towers they actually like heal, heal your soldiers.
Oh, I remember
Um,
that.
so yeah. So I could see I like the idea of like a propaganda tower and yeah, doing having some sort of buff or giving people democracy protects or something like that. That would be fantastic.
A
And yeah, I
democracy
think
protects radius off of a mech. Man, that would be awesome.
that'd be so cool. And I think it's sending this quotes. I think it's also playing the anthem,
It's got to play the anthem.
I
It has to have the flag too, and a
yes.
megaphone.
Yes.
You know, saying
Yes. Just the
dip, dive,
Liberty
duck, and
attachment.
dodge.
Yeah, that would be so cool.
I
I
love
would
that.
say this. Now, I'm going to say this, but I shouldn't say it because, they gave us the flag and it was like, oh, yeah, the flag, and it does nothing. And everybody's pretty salty about it. And honestly, I think it's a cop out for not having to do something.
I
But
mean,
on the mech, I would almost be okay with it literally giving no in-game bonus other than playing the anthem and looking righteous. Like that is dope. Like that is dope. But you know,
yes,
because it's a game, everything should have some mechanic
gameplay
to it, just to
function.
make it
Yeah, I'm into that.
exactly,
I
just to make it.
agree. I agree with both. I want it to do something, but even if it didn't, I'm sure plenty of people would still use it.
Oh, absolutely. I still see people bring the flag all the time, and it's just like, hell yes.
Hell yes, brother.
Yeah.
Cool. And then getting back to it, the last attachment would just be the repair module, which everybody wants. Provides a slow but continuous repair over time to the exosuit, increasing battlefield sustainability. It's exactly what it sounds like.
Yeah, and
Uh,
it's a little bit different from the shield. Like the shield is making it so that you take less damage, where you could take a shot from a turret, and the shield kind of blows up until it recharges. That'd be awesome. But your guts, they're going to take damage over time, and eventually, the mech is going to die. Whereas with the repair module, sure, you could get one shot by a turret, but all like the little bit of fire you're taking here and there, if it kind of doesn't matter as long as you're playing strategically. So I think they help prop up two different gameplay styles.
yeah, I do like that. I think a cool design for this thing would basically be a little guard dog drone that kind of flies around, has a little welder on it, and
Oh
kind
yeah,
of
yeah.
kind of zapping little areas of the mech to repair it over time. I think that would be a cool looking design for it, and something that's pretty much already in the game, asset wise.
Yeah, well, and in Helldivers 1, there was a backpack and a gun that you could use to repair mechs, and it would also rearm them. So I didn't put a rearm module on here because I think that again, there's a different conversation to be had on supporting the gameplay style, and I think just putting infinite ammo add-on to a mech kind of just would make it. I think that's too strong. Um, so yeah, I think there's stratagems, there's other things that you'd use to supplement supporting the ammunition count of the Mac. But repair module, I like that idea of this the guard dog flying around and tack welding and doing all that stuff. That'd be cool.
Yeah, I think that'd be a great little design element.
Yeah. Well, cool. So that was kind of my initial thoughts on how to customize the exosuit. Again, you could basically choose a chassis, two arms, and then one attachment. And to me, what I put in here, obviously, this is a lot of assets to do, um, but I think what's in here would make it so everyone would be feasting on build ideas and just creating these custom mechs. And I think if you could customize the mechs like this, I think you would see everyone bring a mech every game. I think you would always have the oh shit button of like, all right, I'm calling down the mech, and then you're locking in and you've just optimized it for some role on the battlefield, and it would be so sweet.
I love that idea.
I think I remember when I was first getting into Helldivers, when the Emancipator first came out. I had the best time doing this. I remember I was playing with you, and everybody had the Emancipator mech. It was kind of one of those free stratagems, and I remember a big bot drop coming in, and everybody throwing down their Emancipator, and just four people rolling up with their Emancipators, and it was just pure chaos.
Yes, it was
And
like the
it
war
was
of the War of Zion in Matrix 3.
yes, yeah, it was amazing. It was like when you're a little kid and you play video games and you have like those like video game orgasms where you're just like, I can't believe what is happening right now. Like that was one of those moments. And as an adult, to feel something in my cold dead heart, it was pretty great.
Yeah, yep. The older we get, the harder it is to capture those feelings again. And man, Helldivers does a great job of bringing those moments often to life.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Cool. So that's the mech. I went to the FRV. So similar thing. I have split it up into different categories. I have chassis, grills, the gun mount, and tires. And the attributes that everything kind of plays with is top speed, acceleration, handling, armor class, and durability. And these are two different things. Armor class is obviously your armor level, and then durability is your basically the HP of the FRV. So there's a few more chassis than I had with the mech. So and they kind of serve some different roles. So I think we'll just kind of go through each one of them, Quinn. So I'll just go ahead and start with the first one. So the light frame. This is basically what I consider what we have right now.
Yes.
It's for being a fast recon vehicle, and that's what we have right now. High top speed, high acceleration. I say it has great handling, but I don't know, FRV handling little suspect.
Yeah.
It's got some. I believe it just has light armor, and it's kind of, I just say this is middle of the road for durability. It's fast moving. It's good for what it does. I mean, FRV, honestly, super fun when you learn how to drive it. And I'll say this again, I was playing this build where I brought a mech and FRV and the shield backpack. So I'd start out the mission in the FRV. Once that got blown up, I'd call in the FRV. As soon as an FRV hits and you get in it, people just jump in. And that's the thing that I love about it is as soon as you have an FRV, it just changes the way the mission kind of runs. And if you're a good pilot and you can keep that thing alive and you're just ferrying people around the mission, it can go real smooth when you got a good team. So light FRV, yeah, I love the FRV. I think it's great. I think for a starting point, very good.
Yes, I totally agree. I'm a big fan of it as well, and man, there's been a lot of hilarious moments with it.
Oh god, yeah.
So next one you have on here is the stealth frame. This would be a high top speed, which is one step below where we're at currently, but still same acceleration, better handling than the current FRV, which is excellent. We would call this excellent, which I think is the highest, would be the highest handling.
Correct.
It would have slightly less armor than the current FRV, and so therefore it would be a pretty low durability, get destroyed a little bit easier. But this would be a radar dampened frame, reduces the enemy aggro radius, kind of like the stealth armor or scout armor, excuse me. And then would not have any weapon mounts on it, so that way it's more stealthy. That way you're not just running around shooting stuff off and things still have no idea where you are. That wouldn't really make a whole lot of sense lore wise.
Yeah, and I think the radar dampening and the stealth aspect of this would be high. You know, whereas like 30% is the reduction. I think you're at like 50% or higher than that. I think there's some sound dampening going well. Like this is an electric vehicle, you know, so like it basically has no sound when it's moving, so that you could really be kind of creeping around in this thing. And again, I think for those guys that like the stealth gameplay style, this would really help them cover a lot of ground. You know, it's like, cool, I just finished this thing. They get in their stealth FRV, you know, and they're just, you know, just a ghost, you know, just flying through, parking this thing off, you know, then getting in, doing their thing in the base, getting back in, you know, and just really capitalizing on that so that, you know, if you're playing stealth, you still have a good means of getting around the battlefield quickly.
Ooh, now I just had a ninja fantasy with that frame, dropping like an orbital or eagle smoke strike, and then getting in the stealth FRV and jetting out of there. Your enemies
Yeah.
just kind of left, you know, not having aggro on you anymore, and you're just like, all right, see ya.
Yeah, you know, and maybe the stealth frame, maybe it's got a smoke screen. You know, I mean, this thing can also. I always think of the FRV as kind of like Batmobiles. You know, like they should always have like a little trick up their sleeve. So you know, maybe the stealth frame, because it doesn't have a weapon mount, maybe it's got some extra thing where yeah, it can drop a smoke screen or something like that. I think
Maybe it
that
has
would
a
be
smoke grenade
awesome.
launcher turret.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That would be cool.
That could be
So
pretty cool.
I like that a lot. So yeah, let's just say there's a smoke grenade launcher on this thing,
Yeah.
and that would really uh, put it up a notch.
Speaking of putting
Cool.
it up a notch, the rocket frame.
Yes.
Tell me about this insane idea of yours.
Yes. So this is going to pair a lot better with something later on. But the rocket frame is what it sounds like. It just has a big rocket on the back. So this thing has the highest top speed and the highest acceleration, because it has a giant rocket on the back. And this is going to pair well with things later, like reinforced. You know, obviously, because you can like have like reinforced grills. There's things, you know. I put a hell bomb attachment also on this, so that you can basically turn this thing into just basically a pilotable missile.
Nice. The
um,
memes write themselves. Now I'm thinking of Independence Day, the "Hello boys, I'm back" moment with your Hellbomb rocket frame FRV.
but that's the thing. I made this because I was like, this would be hilarious. Like if you had the rocket car, it would be so great.
Yeah,
And so yeah, that's kind of the thought here. Is
yeah,
this is for the memes,
yeah.
and I would love to make myself just a missile car.
Buzz, we missed the truck. We're not aiming
Yeah,
for the truck. Boom.
yeah, yeah. And I think this thing, yeah. So that's kind of the thought here. Is this is more an enabler for when you kind of start piecing together a lot of the extra pieces that we're going to get to in the next little bits here. But yeah, that's that.
Oh man, that's hilarious. I'm tickled by that. That's really
Yeah.
funny. There's so many hilarious implications there. All right, a
Yeah.
little bit more grounded. The reinforced chassis. So it would have a reduced top speed. It would be slower acceleration, stiff handling, heavy armor, high durability. You know, this was for when you're just going straight in the front door.
Yeah.
Heavily armored chassis built for maximum survivability, and you know I think we need this because the FRV. You know, I think both the FRV and the mechs are a little fragile. So yeah, I would love to see something that's a little bit more reinforced.
Yeah, me too. I mean, one thing that you can do with FRV if you got like a whole party is if everyone brings the shield backpack and is and is piloting, like everyone's in the FRV. That actually, or like you got two people on the sides with the directional shield, and then like the driver and the gunner have the shield backpacks. Again, this is like maximizing a team build, but that makes the FRV a lot tankier because you basically got shields in every direction and really cool. Um, but that's a lot of coordination to make the FRV just something that it's not. And so, but again, but I mean, that's what I love about any kind of game that gives you options. Is you can kind of do crazy stuff like that, and it definitely works. But yeah, this would make it so you can kind of drop in with the randoms, and yeah, kind of have the thing, yeah, that kicks in the door, and you don't have to worry about it getting just absolutely annihilated if someone focus fires it for more than 3 seconds.
Yeah, that actually inspires me. We should do an episode on team builds. I think that there's a lot of possibility for synergy. So I'd love to come
Absolutely,
back up to
yeah.
that one day.
Oh,
Uh,
absolutely, yeah. I like the tag team builds for the 2-man and the 4-man squads.
yeah, look forward to that one.
Yeah,
And
it's,
then this last frame was one of my ideas, which is the roll cage. So you can, because it's so easy to flip the FRV. I would love to have something on it so that it just kind of rolls back onto its wheels, no matter what you're doing with it. Um, you know, within reason, obviously. But yeah, this would be moderate top speed, moderate acceleration, stable handling. You you have the rollover protection. It'd probably be like a medium or standard armor class.
yeah,
So kind of similar to what we have for the current FRV offering. But I really think that this would be great. It probably for balance. You probably wouldn't be able to have like a weapon mount on it because the roll cage would need to go around, the whole vehicle. So I don't think
yeah.
that would be possible. But it would just add the uptime, add to the uptime for the FRV.
Yeah, I mean, I'd really like this because then you can kind of drive a little bit more recklessly, you know, just going off, cliffs and stuff like that, knowing that you're gonna get back on your feet and go, so that you can just drive like a madman, and that sounds fun. And again, just because it doesn't have a weapon mount doesn't mean it's not good. You still, if you got, 3 other hell divers in there, they're firing off, and, and quite honestly, when you're shooting out the doors, it's actually better to not have a gunner because the gunner often just like takes everybody's head off because they're not paying attention.
Yes,
So
it's so easy to do.
yeah, so no, I love this idea. I think it'd be really fun. Um, yeah, just make it so you as the driver can be just not really worrying as much and just focus on just putting the pedal down.
Yeah, because I definitely find myself rolling this more often than it actually gets destroyed.
Yes, oh, absolutely. I mean, that's usually what puts it out of commission. Is it just something silly happens and it rolls over. Yeah, and again, in our next episode, maybe that'll be one of our coming up episodes. I think they need to add something into the game on flipping the FRV back over. And I think there's very simple things that can be done for that. Cool. So that does it for the chassis. I think that gives like a good range of play styles. And so then the next thing is grills. So this is obviously kind of the front part of the vehicle. And so the first grill that I have on here, obviously there's the standard grill that we have right now. Again, that's kind of just medium stats across the board. The first thing I have is the ramrod. This is car ramrod.
Car ramrod.
So this is basically increases the armor class of the front of it, and this thing is obviously meant to just make it so that you can just ram through enemies and objects a lot easier by giving you that better armor up front.
Yeah, I'd love to
Pretty
see that
simple thing here.
because, I mean, that's basically what you got to do with this thing. Sometimes, there's hordes of voteless, and you get,
Yeah.
they're always running right down the street, so you kind of have to do something to get them out of the way.
Yeah, exactly. And this affects the stats by obviously it's heavier, so your top speed's going down. It's reducing some of your acceleration. Um, but yeah, what you're getting is basically a higher armor front part of this thing. So yeah, I think that'd be cool. Again, if you're trying to armor max this thing, I think that would be one of the main things that you would put on here to make it so yeah, you don't have to worry so much about the front end of this thing blowing up.
Yeah. Uh, I like this next one. The machine gun grill kind of turn this into
Yes.
a twisted metal car.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that ramming down voteless hordes when they're in the middle of the road is great, but blasting them with the built-in medium caliber machine gun, that would definitely feel pretty good too.
Absolutely.
It'd be tough to aim, but again, the unpredictability of some of the weapons and just the things that happen in Helldivers just adds to the fun. So I think having just the machine guns just blasting off the front of these things, just in a linear fashion, with how erratic the FRV already drives, I think would be a lot of fun.
Yes.
Definitely lead to some good moments.
Oh, absolutely. I would love to just be, doing donuts and just like shooting in all directions. But, you know, on a more serious note though, like I find myself a lot of the times like, just barreling into enemies where like there's a lot of guys just in front of me, and if I just had something spitting bullets forward, I'd be chewing things up. So again, yeah, you don't have as much control over it, but I think you could do some damage with this thing. And again, this is like one of those high skill ceiling things where I think the guy that loves to be the wheelman, you put this on there and you get some time behind the wheel with this thing, you could probably see some people turn pretty dangerous with it.
Now, I don't see this on the list, but a flamethrower grill would be pretty sweet too.
Hey,
It
hell yeah.
goes from Twisted Metal to Mad Max real quick.
Yeah. Yeah, hopefully everyone in the car has brought their fire resistant armor. Okay, so the next one, the next one kind of pairs with the rocket frame, and this is the high explosive grill. So this is basically a bomb that you strap to the front of the car, and once it's kind of like Back to the Future, like once you hit 60 miles an hour and you hit a certain impact threshold, this thing explodes.
Oh
And,
my
my
god.
my fantasy with this is, Factory Strider or Harvester. You just kind of fly out of nowhere and just take its leg out, and just yeah, you kill yourself with it, but it just would have that such an awesome moment of like, I got this one, boys, and you just fly in, and yeah, let's say you're in the rocket chassis and you just fly across the map and just explode into the thing's face or something like that because you ramped off some hill or something. I think you would have insane silly moments by putting a bomb on the front of this thing.
Well, now this gives me two great ideas. When you're using the rocket chassis or or this high explosive grill, once you get up to that speed threshold, flaming tire tracks. Or even with that with the rocket chassis, when you if the rocket was able to be activated by
Yes,
a
I agree.
button,
Yeah,
if
yeah,
you
the
could
NOS
activate,
button.
yeah, you hit the nos button, and you bail out and just let the thing just take off and
Oh yeah,
crash into whatever. That would be
absolutely.
pretty
No,
sweet.
I like that a lot. Yeah, I like that. Is like you activate it and you can bail out and maybe you get lucky. And I think anytime you activate the button, the laugh emote starts.
There we go. Got to use
I would
those
love to hear.
assets.
Yeah, I'd love to just see a guy in a rocket-propelled FRV cackling maniacally as he, flies into a factory strider, and just explodes it.
Yeah, so many good meme potential with that. So many good memes.
Yeah.
Uh, No, this next one I really like. So basically, the directional shield placed on the front, so like a big frontal shield grill, that has, again, all the energy shields, it has an amount of damage it can uh, absorb before it gets damaged and has to recharge.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think this would just be, another really nice thing. Again, I think something like this, it's only active while a driver is in the car. The keys got to be in the ignition, the engine's got to be on to be powering this thing. But yeah, I mean, I think that this would be great, especially for just like posting up in the FRV and just having everybody kind of shoot out of it. Yeah, really cool thing, just deflecting the small arms fire and make it so you can just use it a little bit more effectively.
Sweet. We got two more left. This one was my idea, the cow catcher grill, where you basically have like the front of a train to push all the enemies out of the way rather than running them straight over. Um, but this would be great when you got hordes to drive through.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think this would make it so there's no loss of speed. I think this kind of throws things to the ground, kind of staggers them, so they kind of get a little disoriented. Yeah, I mean, I do like this for, again, having, if you're building your FRV as the getaway vehicle or something that's trying to get you from point A to point B as quick as possible and you're optimizing for that, I think this is really good. I think it works on items too. A big thing is in like the streets is like the cars. There's just like cars everywhere, and sometimes it's hard to get around them, or the cinder blocks. I think this just kind of catapults things out of your way.
Ooh, yeah, I like that idea a lot.
Nice. And then the last grill is I think this is my favorite, is the spiked grill. This to me is the Mad Max type of thing where it gives you some frontal reinforcement, but it makes it so even you don't have to be going very fast for you to be doing high damage to things that you run into. Because I find a lot that I'm running into things, enemies, and then I'm not killing them, and a lot of times I'm just kind of pushing them. I would love something that is actively hurting them. So, because honestly, I love just getting in the FRV and just trying to see how many things I can run over in it, and this would help me a lot more in achieving that goal.
Yeah, and it makes me just think of, I don't know, just having mangled corpses stuck to the front of the
Yes.
FRV while you're driving around.
Absolutely. You could definitely see a couple of like, the bots just like, glitching out on your grill. I would love to see that, or a big bug stuck on there.
And like
amazing.
blue blood, spraying off of a vote list that's stuck on the grill.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that would be really fun, and again, would just really, it gives some cool build opportunity there.
Yeah, so just again with the possibilities, just with those two sections, add so much flavor to these vehicles that I just really want to play around with.
Yeah. And again, when the battle for Super Earth was going on, there was a time when everybody had the FRV unlocked. And again, it was one of those things where everybody was using them all the time on those missions, and the missions were just so much more fun because you just be battling. It's like, cool, we're done here, and then you just see like an FRV drop. It's like, let's go,
Yep.
And even just with the custom paint jobs, it's cool to just like, yep, there's mine. That thing looks cool. If it was customized that much more and people get it, would get in it, be like, oh man, this thing's sick. What's this guy got his thing kitted out with, and that are unfortunate enough to get in your rocket-propelled missile,
Yeah.
but,
About to find
but
out what you're in.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, just these two things alone, you're right. Just they open up the space a lot for some individuality. Excuse me. Third category of customization, which would be the weapon mount. Uh, right now it's the heavy machine gun, pretty sweet. But obviously there's a lot of other cool stuff that we could be putting on here. So first thing that comes to mind is putting an autocannon on it. They're showing now like the oil tanker and I just saw some links of like the APC. They have like a mounted autocannon on there. To me, that just seems like the perfect thing to put on one of these things. Obviously, I think it would make the vehicle a little bit slower and maybe a little bit more drag, but I would love to see that as something you could put on here.
Yeah, that'd be sweet. I'm looking forward to the new vehicles in the game. I'm hoping that those are coming soon.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So I see next you have like a shield generator. Is that like a little bubble shield, or is it like? Oh yeah, yeah. It would be like a directional, or not a directional shield, but like a big bubble shield, right?
Yes, yeah. So basically, just to be good against obviously blocking incoming fire. It wouldn't really do anything against kinetic impacts, but just something again to allow the FRV to have a little bit more sustainability, kind of just like our deployable shield. It kind of, I think it blow up and have like a recharge time associated with it, but obviously there's no reason why you couldn't remove the gun mount and put a shield generator there. It could absolutely fit.
Yeah, totally. I think you said that it wouldn't really do anything against kinetic force. That basically be like meleeing a Helldiver with the bubble shield on, and they kind of go tumbling. Same thing would still
Yeah.
happen with the FRV.
Yeah, at least it has a little bit more weight, so it's a little less prone to just being tossed like a piece of paper. And so the next thing to kind of go along with the shield thing is basically a directional shield turret, which would be like a heavily reinforced shield turret that you can basically kind of move around the FRV to give like really good defense, but within like a single lane. Would be really good for obviously trying to get away, like bots would be really good for where things can flank you, you can cover your flank more effectively, and then the divers can pop out of the side doors and be a little bit more covered from incoming fire.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool, especially if you're hightailing it out of an area. You have to pretty much cover whatever direction your fire is coming from, or even just like covering from the back as you're driving away. That'd be pretty sweet.
Yeah, or like the frontal charge to just like really ensure you're able to get up close.
There you go. Well, like
Charge a fat rider.
yeah, if we had a one of the shield grills, frontal shield grill, and the directional shield, you can kind of like shield max a bit and just be like, we're going
Yeah.
in.
Yeah, and just really not worry. Yeah,
Yep.
and just plow.
Yep, exactly. I like this next one, the grenade launcher turret. That would be pretty sweet, similar to the emplacement, like the wall emplacement stratagem.
Yeah.
I think arguably it'd be way better than that stratagem because that one's not very good, but uh, just because it's so stationary, which having this on the back of an FRV pretty much fixes that. But
Yeah, I
that'd
think
be
it'd be
great
super
for
cool.
clearing mobs as you're driving by.
Yeah, I mean the grenade launcher to me is a perfect fit for an FRV because you just kind of have to be close. The obviously the heavy machine gun's cool and it's like a cool fantasy, but it's not super effective. Like obviously you could. The way I like to use the turret is like parking the FRV and then using it basically like a stationary turret. But
Yes.
on the go, you got to be pretty skilled to be doing any kind of real damage to anything in the vicinity of you while you're driving.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's actually my favorite use for the FRV is to park it up at the extract and have an extra turret there firing off.
Yeah, yeah, me too. Yeah, and kind of to go along with that, this is a crossover weapon, so I don't know if they could put it on the FRV, but I think the Wasp, having the Wasp launcher on the FRV would be so dope.
Yeah, especially because it's a lock-on weapon. While moving would make it considerably more effective.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
To me, that would be awesome.
yeah, like you were saying, it's hard to really maximize the firepower on the back of the FRV anyway when you're moving, just because it does take a lot of skill to land your shots, unless it's obviously right in front of you or you're firing just directly the same direction that the FRV is headed. But Yeah, a targeted weapon would be great.
Yeah, well, and also the driving on it is just usually pure chaos, so you're just kind of holding on the trigger and moving back and forth, hoping to hit something a lot of the time.
Ain't that the truth? Well, since that one is a crossover weapon, probably unlikely, but still a great idea. But this one's in the game, the double-edged sickle. Having a like turret based off of the double-edged sickle would be awesome, and I feel like realistically, it could just be. It wouldn't necessarily have to be double-edged because it'd be big enough to have, a heat sink somewhere. I always think
Yeah.
about these things. So it's like, okay, we're scaling up the weapon. The heat sink should be scaled up too, and mounted somewhere. So should be able to just have a medium pen sickle turret. That would be cool. Because anytime you have the opportunity to have unlimited ammo on any weapon inside of Helldivers 2, it becomes immediately invaluable.
Yeah, and I kind of say double edged because I think maybe if you overheated it to the point it could explode. Like I do like the unlikely or the unpredictability of some of the weapons where it's like, hey, you're just laying on the trigger and you go too far and it just it blows up.
Sure.
I think that's also
Um,
yeah.
yeah, I think that would be a good balance, actually. That way it's not just unlimited ammo, crushing everything, and
Yeah.
no downside. Yeah, I think you're probably right that that's
Yep.
a good call, that the gun
To
could
have
explode.
some
I mean,
trigger discipline.
similar to the laser turret. If that one overloads, it blows up. So
Yeah,
keep
exactly.
that.
That's my thought.
Yeah.
Yeah. And going along with that, I have the laser cannon on here. Again, another the laser. When I think of the FRV, and again, when you're thinking of realism, there is no reason why half these weapons cannot just be put on a mount and put in the back of an FRV.
Yeah,
And especially
exactly.
the laser cannon, which is like obviously light enough for a person to carry it. There's no reason why you just couldn't put it on a gimbal and go nuts.
Yeah, exactly. Like laser cannon is the perfect example of that because it basically has the same kind of reload mechanic and magazine capacity as the HMG. So why not toss it on a stand and call it good?
Yeah, exactly.
Ooh, I see on the next one you have the Commando rocket launcher. I'm seeing like a double Commando rocket launcher that's got like
Oh yeah,
one on
that
each
would be cool.
side and it just firing off a few commandos.
Yeah,
If those were laser guided still, that would be awesome.
that was kind of my thought. Is yeah, you would still have the laser tracking again, kind of helping you when you're in movement to try and land some shots.
Yeah, and then it kind of gives you a little bit more utility with it as well. You can destroy some bug holes with it. You could destroy, anti-tank emplacements, turrets,
Yeah,
those kind of things with it. And again, utility is always great. I'm always trying to figure out how to bring as much stuff that can blow up as much stuff as possible,
yeah,
especially with the Into the Unjust update. I'm just like,
yeah.
man, there's not enough explosions in the world right now.
That's correct.
Cool. Well, let's move on to the last the last category of customizable items for the FRV, which is the tires.
Yep.
Which I think
Yeah.
we all could agree that the tires on the FRV currently are so fragile, where you pretty much
Yes.
end up driving around on at least one rim, pretty much immediately.
Yeah. It's like in terms of durability and firepower of the FRV, I'm pretty okay on it. I'm like, yeah, this is fine. But yeah, when it comes to the handling of the FRV is where I get like really down on it. And once it loses one of those tires, it is just the most unwieldy thing. It is borderline useless at that point in time. So yeah, I feel like there's some cool things we could do with the tires to beef up that experience.
Cool. So
Beefing up.
obviously, first thing that everybody's going to say, reinforced tires. Yes.
Yeah.
It would
Yeah.
probably there'd have to be a trade off for acceleration. or speed, but yeah, some heavy duty tires that would be resistant to like the automaton mines, small arms fire. Pretty much anything that a Helldiver is going to do to it as well would be nice. Especially
Yep.
on maps with Siege soldiers, I've had FRVs get blown up by the Siege soldiers' frag grenades, or tires blown off by just some Liberator carbine or Liberator fire, and I'm just like, okay, thanks, guy.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So, no brainer there. And kind of to go on the other end of that, I have like the Speed Slick tires, which would just again for maximizing for speed on the FRV. Again, with all this customization, I think there could be a build where you're just like speed maxing an FRV and you're just able just to cook across the map. So again, I think they would be a little bit lower durability, which isn't probably the best thing, but if the trade-off is you just have a lightning fast FRV, too fast of an FRV, there's just some fun that can be had there.
Yeah, definitely, and again, it would be rewarded with high skill. So
Yeah.
it's like, yes, it's fragile. Yes, it's probably not practical for most people, but it's. I mean, the game just hit 500,000 players again, so there's going to be a lot of differing playstyles in the game,
Yeah.
just inherently.
Absolutely. And people, myself included, like I like building with the high risk, high reward, or just the meme stuff. It's just fun, and whatever you can do to just increase the longevity of a game through just pure fun, I think is worth the investment.
Yep, exactly right. Um, So now this one is another Mad Max kind of idea, the scythed wheels. So some spinning
Yes.
blades on the wheels that damage enemies when you drive through or past them. Yeah, I want this. Either scythe
Me too.
wheels or spiked wheels. Something that just looks like it's straight out of a heavy metal video. Um, yeah, or like Twisted
Yeah.
Metal.
I know, man. Like, I want the spiked grill and the scythe wheels and just like plowing through Voteless and Terminids, just cutting them all to pieces. That's the kind of FRV that I want to make.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I think that one's that was pretty self-explanatory, but super fun there. And because I feel like a lot of the times I'm running into things or I'm driving past things, and if I just had a little bit more reach, a little bit more speed, a little bit more, I feel like the FRV would actually be doing a pretty good job at killing things.
Yeah, and I think actually the FRV kind of falls short when it comes to dealing with hordes and melee type enemies like the Terminids or the Voteless. Uh,
Yeah, which I feel like it should do a decent job. I feel like, again, it's a car, and like even against the voteless, it does not do a great job of mowing them down. Even if you're going at a what I would think is a moderate speed, it kind of just pushes them out of the way, and I don't necessarily care for that. I shouldn't have to be going a ridiculous um, at a ridiculous speed to be able to kind of take these things down.
Agreed.
So my next idea would just be a hover wheel. So basically, think Back to the Future. you know,
Yes.
I think this would make it really. I think the trade-off is it's slow, but you never have to worry about your tires popping. It's just like kind of slow and steady, and I think it's a lot harder to flip this thing as well, just probably because it's a little bit slower. Uh, I also really like the idea of just having an FRV that doesn't get flipped over easily, and I don't have to worry about its tires popping. To me, that is a good time.
Yes. That's what give the people what they want.
Yes, yes, exactly. And again, I'm all for the fragility and creating that experience again, but again, I think there's room for all styles.
Yeah, and as far as the fragility of the FRV goes, like at least there's not a limited number of uses.
Yeah, no,
and the cooldown
100%.
isn't a huge punishment, so I'm not going to
Yeah,
complain too much.
agreed.
And then what are these last ones you got here, Shay?
So titanium elastic tires. This is basically tires that they use on like moon landers. They're basically tires that cannot pop because they're not traditional tires. Um, they would have terrible handling and probably terrible acceleration because they really don't have a lot of grip to them. But again, it's just a tire that could not be popped. So again, just another idea for something truly in reality that
Yeah.
uh,
I was going to say this one was one of my ideas because this is literally on the Mars rover.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So yeah, but so that's kind of it. I mean, that's a lot.
It's a lot.
Obviously,
So, yeah, they should just get started on putting this all together
yeah,
for us.
yeah, exactly. Just get this done in a couple weeks, and that'll be awesome. Yeah, it's might be a little insane, but to me, this and to unlock all these things, I think this is a perfect way to make samples relevant again, especially for the divers that have been doing this for a long time. I think you make each of these components unlockable by samples, and some of these are obviously a little bit more powerful than others. So more higher rarity samples will be used for these things. You could increase the grind on the game and but by quite a bit by adding this to it. And again, the more time that they engage players, the more likely they are to buy war bonds, all that type of stuff. And to me, a lot of the assets for this stuff I think are already in the game. Obviously, you can take any support weapon and slap it on the back of the FRV. Those assets exist. So that was kind of my thinking around a lot of this stuff. Yeah, I talked about some newer things, but nothing that's too crazy or isn't building off of something that's already pre-existing.
Yes. That's one thing that we usually try to keep in mind when we're coming up with these ideas is things that are already in the game that we can continue to utilize, so that the way there's not a big lift on assets. It's just kind of reskin or just combining some existing models, because we do realize that these ideas are lofty, but at the same time, it costs money to make video games and takes people time to create assets, and voice lines and things like that are not quick and easy things. They may seem that way, but I know that they are not.
Absolutely.
But like the just kind of coming back to the whole this whole idea is just to kind of create aspirational content inside of the game, which always keeps me engaged in games. Games like Destiny or games like even Ghost of Tsushima. Both of those have a lot of grind in them.
Yep.
But there's things that you're grinding for where it's like, okay, I'm trying to get enough of this so that I can transmog some of my favorite items and create the armor looks I'm looking for, because the drip is always the end game.
Yes.
But like I like to be a completionist. I like to have all these options so that I can experiment, and there's a lot of role play within the builds and the build crafting. And the more options you give, the more combinations you create, like the more opportunity it is to create these power fantasies, these role-playing possibilities. We got a couple written down here for examples. So for like with the mechs, you could do the Ronin. It's a Vanguard frame with a laser katana and shield and a self-destruct module. Or the Assassin, it's like a phantom frame with a rail cannon, a quasar cannon, and a jump pack. Just all two heavy hitting weapons and a really quick moving mech, so you can get in and out and just deal the maximum amount of damage. I always like being like the Reinhardt, the tank on the front line protecting my team. So I like this one, the Defender, the Vanguard frame, ballistic shield, dual laser cannon, and a stratagem launcher. So that way you're like launching shields out, throwing turrets down, and then using your ballistic shield to soak up a lot of the damage. And then like the Titan, the heavy frame, anti-tank cannon, an air burst launcher, and a repair module. So you're just kind of constantly out there on the front lines and keeping your mech up and running.
Yeah. Yeah, and then for FRVs, I like the hit and run where light frame, speed slick tires, but then put the commando on the back, um, or the what I kind of was alluding to, the kamikaze FRV,
Yeah.
a booster frame, yeah, the booster rocket, explosive grill, and I'd put the hover wheels on there
There
because
you go.
then you have like no friction.
Yep, I had the same thought.
Yeah, so now you're just driving a missile.
Yes, literally.
Yeah. And then, I have like a breaching FRV where you have the reinforced chassis, the ram grill, scythed wheels, then kind of pick and choose whatever weapon you want to throw it on the back where, this thing's just meant to come in and just, you're wreaking havoc in this thing.
Yeah. Then there's just so many combinations. There's a lot of cool combinations that you can do with all the things that we've come up with here. As always, I hope our listeners appreciate these things and also come up with their own ideas and loadouts and combinations that they'd like to see on the mechs and the FRVs. It's like the customization for the exosuit and the FRVs would just crank up all of these power fantasies, crank up all of these combinations and role play possibilities. It's just I think this would take the game to the next level.
Absolutely. Yeah, me too. Me too. If this was in the game, it would feel like just this never-ending sandbox.
And that's what we want. That's exactly what we want, a sandbox to play in.
Yep. Awesome. Well, I think that does it for today.
Yeah, I want to thank you guys again for coming by and checking out the Buff Divers podcast. We got a lot more of these in the works, so please let us know if you enjoy these. If you'd even like these in a live format, we can do that as well. But as always, we appreciate all of you guys for sticking around and fighting the good fight for Super Earth. Stay buff.
I guess.